Last year, we were at the center of a lot of change. We said it would be coming, and boy, we weren't kidding. We made a lot of big moves. Took what we do well and made it look like this. We made good stuff and made good stuff happen. Brand new. Now, when we look around, it's a mobile, social, video, IoT, connected everywhere all the time world. And you know what? We're at the center of it all.
Team. Happy 2016. It's good to see you all. We're here in Basking Ridge. For those of you all over the country watching online, we got a great crowd here in Basking Ridge. Looking pretty smart out there today. And it's good to see you all. Very, very good to see you all. So this is really the first national webcast, I think, that we've done as a full network team. So I'm really excited about the day today. I'm going to warn you that when I look at the content we have, I'm pretty sure we're going to go over the hour. So you might want to mark your calendars accordingly, but it'll be a stretch to see if we could really wrap this up in an hour. A lot of good stuff. So I'm going to talk to you today first a bit about our business priorities, then quickly shift to the network priorities, our plan for 2016, and then we'll bring up members of my team, of the leadership team. We've got some panels for you, hopefully some interesting videos along the way, so we'll try to keep it light and full of good, relevant content, okay? All right, and by the way, questions, get ready in the room because we'll have time for Q&A at the end, but get ready online because you have the ability to enter in a question and we will see all those and we plan on getting to as many of them as possible towards the end here, so be ready for that. Okay, let's talk about our business priorities. Well, it really starts with this. Deliver the promise. Have you all seen this yet? Deliver the promise and Better Matters. We should feel really good about that Better Matters because guess what? It really starts with the network team, right? It starts with the network experience that we provide to customers. So deliver the promise of the digital world. You saw in 2015 that we've announced that as our purpose. And then you see Better Matters in some of our marketing campaigns, and you see it online. You'll see a lot more of it because that is really becoming more of our brand and who we are, how we're presenting ourselves to the world. And it's not just network. It is network. It's fundamentally network, but it's not only network in terms of better for our customers in every aspect of how they interact with us. So let's talk about the priorities in order to do that. First is a great customer experience. I mean, it always starts and ends with this, right? We know that. Speak human, right? Talk to me as a person. Don't talk to me as a number. This goes for our retail channel in the stores. This goes to our online experience. You think we don't speak to people in our online experience? Well, that's not true. We have a tone. We have a way that we're connecting with people online. Make it human, and certainly keep our word. I mean, that's something that we've always espoused here in the network team, and it needs to continue and needs to be the whole business-wide. Deliver on your promises, say what you do, and then, of course, digital first. You're going to hear a lot about digital first this year, and it is important to us as a network team, but it's much broader than that. I believe that, I may have this stat, I probably should check this for the webcast, but directionally this will be correct. I believe something like 60% of Christmas shopping purchases were made online. I read that over the holidays. You know what percentage of holiday purchases that were made from Verizon Wireless were made online? You guys know, you've heard this, right? Yeah, 3%. 3%. So if you think we don't have an opportunity here, you're wrong. And if you think our customers don't want to do business with us digitally, you're wrong. They do. You know it from your own buying habits and the habits of yourselves, your children, your families. You know how it works. We've got to get better in this area, and I think you'll see us make some very big moves to really ensure that digital is the first and foremost way that customers connect with us. Growth and profitability. Nothing new here. I think last year you would have seen growth as its own priority, profitability as its own priority, but now, growth and profitability, never have they not been important. This year, continually more important as there's pressure in the marketplace, right? As you see the competition coming in with low price offers really directed at undercutting us. So our ability to maintain value to customers and be able to charge the premium that we charge, customers got to believe that they're getting something for that premium that they're paying. Building our V-team culture. This is really, we're part of a larger team, right? And our culture is frankly one of our strengths. So it's not something that we can just assume will always carry us into the future. It's something we have to nurture. It's something we have to protect. It's something that we have to think about, not just in the context of our own little team, but in the context of the broader Verizon. How do we leverage everything that we've got in this big company and make sure we're putting it together in the right ways and delivering value to the customer? So that's at a high level. Let's talk a little bit more specifically about network. And before I go any further, I probably should talk about 2015. What's today, the 14th already? So we're halfway through, January. So I'm not going to spend long here, but 2015 certainly deserves a mention. It was a good year. We'll be reporting our results here pretty soon in the month, so I can't talk a lot about our actual end-of-year results as a corporation. But I could tell you, and you all know, what we did as a network team. There's some things to definitely be proud of in 2015. First of all, densification. We have this mantra, right? Lower and tighter. We need to have capacity where customers need it, when they need it, before they need it, right? And that's the job of all you out there in the field and the support here in the headquarters organization, is to make sure that we can get the capacity in place with the right solutions, the cost-effective solutions that solve the customer's problem before they really need it. And you know what? We did that. You did it really well in 2015. We added over 20,000 solutions. And by the way, we're going to have at least that many in 2016. So we know we can do it. We've got a run rate here that's established, right? So we added those solutions, and what did the market say, right? RootMetrics, Nielsen, J.D. Power. You guys are killing it. You are absolutely killing it. And that needs to continue. But we know how to do this. We're leaders in this space, and densification is part of that plan that keeps us ahead. Reliability, the core of who we are. Year-over-year improvement in reliability, year-over-year improvement, LTE performance, VoLTE performance on top of that, and the competitive advantage that I just referenced. So, we tend sometimes to take this for granted, but it's table stakes now. I mean, we have to continue with this advantage, and you all know how to do this. New technology. When I look back at 2015, we did a lot in this area. There's many LTE advanced features that are coming, but there's some that are already here. So we started to implement carrier aggregation, and there are other new services that are on the way. But 2015, we laid that foundation. We also laid the foundation in something we're going to hear more about in this hour, which is, our network cloud infrastructure. I mean, we've been joking around here. It's like we have a cloud. I mean, we actually now do have our own network cloud that we will begin to start, we will begin to put applications on very aggressively in 2016. And, you will start to see over time many of our core applications riding on a virtualized cloud infrastructure that we will be running. Okay? Efficiency. Very proud of the team, proud of you all for, driving efficiency year over year. It's the job of the engineer, right? I always say this: better, faster, cheaper. Cheaper is important, right? But it's a balancing act. You've been able, through our partnership with our planning organizations and developing the right architecture and solutions and driving our suppliers, to the execution of doing the right thing in the field at all times. We've been able to drive a 30% year-over-year improvement. So congratulations on that. You'll hear in a minute that that's not enough for 2016. Good work does not go unpunished around here. But really very, very good results in 2015. And I tell you, when I look back at 2015, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that it was a year of significant change in the business. There was change early on with our corporate organizational structure, kind of at the top, and then significantly there was change towards the end of the year. We had a reduction in force that impacted network for the first time in many, many years. That was not fun, enjoyable, not something we'd like to repeat, but unfortunately necessary for the business. Out of that, we ended up with a streamlined structure for the business that is aligned around 6 markets, and we ended up with a streamlined structure in network that supports that, with sort of a field organization that has consolidated engineering and system performance and planning. So, we're still in the infancy with the structure, but I'm expecting big things, and I'm very, very happy with how the field teams and our whole network team has embraced the new direction and where we need to go. And now it's time to really sort of supercharge and see what else can be delivered with this new structure. So again, 2015, a year of very great change, and also a foundational year in terms of laying some of the technologies that we need for the future. Okay, let's talk about 2016 priorities. You see them here on the screen, and once again, it's, whether we're talking about it this year or the message last year or the year before, it's always some combination of quality, cost, and timeliness, right? Speed. I mean, this is how we do our job, and it is a series of choices that we need to make to strike the right balance. And so here, I'm going to talk about each of these a little bit to talk about the choices that we're going to make in 2016. So first of all, I already said it, probably won't be the last time, but I'll say it again. Maintaining industry-leading performance and reliability is what we are known for, and of all the things that we're going to change in 2016, this cannot change. You guys know how to do this, and we're going to do it again, but it's fundamental. So what do we need to do to keep that up? Because the competition is hot and heavy, right? They're doing a lot of things, as we would expect them to do when they're getting their butts kicked all the time out in the marketplace. So what do we need to do? We need to stick to our plan, which is continued densification, getting the solutions in place at the right time before customers need that demand. We have a centralized RAN and a dark fiber strategy that supports that densification. We have antenna modifications going on. We're very busy with all of this in the field, making sure we've got the right equipment at the top of the tower that gives us capabilities now and capabilities into the future. And lastly, operational excellence. This we've got, but once again, just like our culture, you can't take this for granted. We know how to execute a plan, but we have to ensure that as the business goes faster and continues to change, that we stick to the fundamentals of our brand in network, which is running to a crisis, which is ensuring that a single drop call, whether it's CDMA or VoLTE, is not acceptable, and ensuring we do all that we do in order to make our reliability number one. That doesn't change. Okay, let's talk about VoLTE. It's on here because it's just that important. I'm going to do a show of hands in the room, but virtually you can put your hand up for me too. How many people are using VoLTE today? Have VoLTE turned on their device? Okay, this is who does not have their hand up. All right, I see you. I see you. Let's have a little special counseling session for some of these folks. Listen, we need to be using VoLTE. VoLTE is the network of today, but by gosh, it's the network of our future. It won't be long before the vast majority of calls on our network will be on our LTE network. That's going to happen, and it's going to happen very, very fast as we go to our out-of-box VoLTE on, default on solution. More and more devices have that. Some of our big iconic devices have that. When that happens, it's going to be a rush. Now when I look at how's the network performing, you see year over year, VoLTE performance in terms of getting on the network and staying on the network, great improvement. We've also started looking at audio gapping. Now, you all know in CDMA we didn't have a great way of measuring quality of that voice call. We had some MOS scores, but we didn't really have a great way of looking at quality. Now we can look at audio gaps. So this is a benefit of being in an IP network. We can look at audio gaps. And by the way, who likes audio gaps? Has anybody had that experience? Not really great experience. So we need to focus on this and keep driving improvement in this area. We have a good number of subs, almost 9 million subs, 29 capable devices that are out there. But let's not forget, there are benefits to VoLTE, right? HD quality voice, simultaneous voice and data. How do we forget about that, right? That's very important to customers, right? So along with just the day-to-day making it better, we like to beat ourselves up. I know I yell at a lot of people in terms of your VoLTE performance, but let's not forget that there are basic benefits to being on VoLTE versus CDMA. And this will be a huge year where we are just going to see it flip. Now, we have had time with this VoLTE network. Here's the good news. We've launched it over a year ago, seeing improvement exactly the way that we should be. So we've had some time to build up some confidence, to build up our training and education and our troubleshooting techniques and our tools. And now we're going to start to see all that come home to roost. So we should be ready for this, and I think we are ready, but it's going to be a very big year for VoLTE. Need your attention here. Speaking of big year, it's going to be a big year for new technologies too. So there is a fundamental change happening in networking, in wireless networking. And I'm sure you all know about it. If you're not in the middle of it right now, you've at least read about it. And that is that our network functions are going to become virtualized. The software that we see, that's running our network will be separated from hardware, and we will be defining our whole network via software. And very different. We will not be buying longer term, purpose-built hardware with specific software on it from the likes of Ericsson and ALU and Cisco and everybody else we do with. We're doing that now, but it is changing, and it's changing very, very rapidly. So I said before, we have a cloud. Well, we have, this infrastructure, and Beth Drowan will talk more about it later. And we will start to very aggressively lay applications on top of it. And this is an exciting space, because some of this has already happened a bit in IT, so we can learn from what's happening in IT. But frankly, the technology had not matured enough to really see it in, sort of this stateful, very demanding applications like voice calling, that we see on our wireless networks. But it's ready now, and it's here, and we need to take advantage of it. And we need to go fast, and we need to ensure we've got quality along the way. So again, I'll save the rest for Beth, but this is my acronym slide. So you see, LTE Advanced, just a comment here. LTE's got a lot of legs. So as we're talking about 5G, and we'll have Adam Copy with us talking about 5G in a little bit, we should never forget that LTE still has a lot of great improvements coming, and will be a network that's around for quite a long time. IBS is in building system, in case someone told me they thought it was irritable bowel syndrome. And I said, no, I didn't mean to imply that. It is in building systems. So we have a lot of new in building system technologies like Spider Cloud and some new products, the Ericsson Dot, that are at our disposal that provide solutions more effectively and more cheaply. So again, some exciting things happening here. And when you look at our spend, we're not spending on the older technologies anymore. And that's where it starts, right? So we're not spending on EVDO. We're not spending on CDMA. So capital investment shouldn't be going there. And you can see that it's not, to the tune of 96% of our spend on directional things. And that's good news. And we need to continue to do that and push that. But now what we have to think about is, think about your time and your energy, your intellectual capacity. Where are you spending it? I know, the vast majority of our voice calls are handled on our CDMA network today, and we certainly can't ignore that. But like I said, it's going to change very quickly. So we need to be sure that we're spending, the right amount of time pushing ourselves to the new technologies, even where it might be a little uncomfortable or seem like it might be a little too soon, because it's going to happen fast. Okay? Transform the network. This is the last of our priorities I'm going to talk about here. Has anybody heard about network transformation? I mean, we've been talking about it quite a bit here. And, Colleen Casey is with us. She's going to help us on a panel and a little bit go into more detail here. But look at the slide. Look at the graphs here on the left. Year over year, and this would have been true in years past, we have driven efficiencies in the network on both our capital efficiency and our expense efficiency. So again, we should be proud of that, but that's part of our job to just keep driving that year over year. 30% or greater in both capital and expense efficiencies. But guess what? It's not enough. It's not enough. If you looked at our revenue per gigabyte, so this is all based on cost per gig, or in this case, cost per total megabyte. If you looked at our revenue per gigabyte, that's coming down, and it's coming down at a much steeper slope than our efficiencies are coming down at. And that's a problem. You'd say, well, maybe that's not our problem. We just run the network. We're a cost center. We don't care about revenue. No, not good enough, right? We care about the business. And you see the pressures in the business, what others are able to do with slashing costs, and we could have a long discussion about how sustainable that is, et cetera. But we need to focus on what we can do. And what we can do is continue to be the low-cost provider. That doesn't mean in the marketplace. That doesn't mean people think of us as a low price. They need to think of us as value and high quality, right? But we can be the low-cost provider. And guess what? I don't know if you all know this. We are today. Our cost structure, a lot of it's based on our scale, but not all of it. Our cost structure is better than our competitors. And why is that important to the business? It's important because it gives us room. If we need to make pricing changes in the marketplace based on what's happening with the competitive landscape, we have some room to maintain margins if our costs are low, right? So we've been able to do that, but we need to accelerate that and accelerate it at a really rapid pace. Okay, so again, that's where the new technologies come in, because they are providing us a cost structure that continues to drive efficiencies. Okay, and you'll hear from Colleen in a little bit some of the things that we're doing along these lines. It's very multifaceted, but I want everyone to really understand how fundamentally important rethinking the way we do businesses and rethinking our cost structure in that. It's fundamental. It's very, very critical. So we need to be sort of in those kind of ranges. So lots more discussion about that. Okay, that's the high-level priorities. What I'd like to do now is tee up a video, and we'll get our first panel up here. This first video is going to illustrate some of what I think you are all hearing and seeing around you, but our competitive landscape today. So can we roll the video?
It has been a great time to be a wireless customer.
And as it relates to Verizon, color me unimpressed.
AT&T is the faster carrier overall.
Sprint is going to be #1.
We have more spectrum than any other carrier in the planet.
AT&T's network now has the nation's strongest LTE signal.
Even Verizon customers are seeing the light.
Verizon built America's best, most reliable network for one reason.
Okay, so lots going on out there. We've got a panel here in front of us. Some of our teammates that we have the pleasure of working with every day. Let's key off that video first and go to Mike Haberman. So I think you have some things prepared on this, but Mike, tell us with everything that's happening in the marketplace, how do we continue to stay ahead and win?
Okay. There are really three fundamentals when I think of the competitors and where we compete with each other. All right, and clearly one of the ones is coverage, the slide I just put up. Okay. Now, when you think of coverage, it's something we all know about. There's nothing new here. What we're dealing with in a mobile environment, you guys know that coverage is important, mobility is important, but what we see continuing to happen is customers' demands for mobility keep increasing. All right, what do I mean by that? I mean by service in your house, service when you're going to work, service when you're going to school, in your place of office. So the demands of mobility continue to increase. All right, should be no surprise to us. Now, when you look at the chart that I've shown here, this is our LTE miles covered. All right, and you can see we have a substantial lead compared to everybody else. Now, if I put up another slide that showed POPs covered, it would show a very similar trend. All right, so we have a lead here. All right, this is something that's not new. All right, and what we need to continue to do is make sure that we keep emphasizing it. All right, our competitors generally like to check the box. They say we're there too. The reality is they're not. All right, so we need to keep emphasizing it. We're going to continue to have this advantage, and we're going to continue to leverage it in the business.
That's another thing, don't you think, Mike, that we take for granted is the largest network. I mean, everyone knows we're the largest network, but we have to remember what largest means to a customer.
Right.
We are a mobile network, right?
Yeah.
If we were just always stationary, we wouldn't need a large network, but it's not how our customers use our devices.
Right.
Sometimes
I think we forget, even inside network, that we're the largest.
Yeah.
We take it for granted. Even inside our business, the business people.
Yeah.
So that's why we got to keep reminding everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, it's nothing to wash away. All right.
Thanks.
All right. Second, let's talk about speed. All right. Speed is something that's talked about a lot. It's sexy. People understand it. It's easy to understand. Our competitors like to use it in a lot of different ways because you can position it in a lot of different ways, right? It's just the way it's gone. You've seen a lot of the advertisements that are out there. Well, let's talk about speed for just a second and what it really means, pure speed. It's very changing. It's very fleeting, all right? If I'm on one corner versus another corner, I could have different service, different speeds. All right. If I just deployed a new carrier versus a carrier that's been out there for a little while, all right, you can have different speeds as well. 12 o'clock, all right, different speed. 5 o'clock, different speed. Midnight, different speed. All right, so it's very variable. Okay. We don't engineer for pure speed. That's not our game. That's not what we're trying to do. All right. What we're trying to do is deliver the consistent speed when and where a customer would like to have it. All right. Now, I've shown a graph here. This is our throughput greater than 5 megabits on the downlink and 2 megabits per second on the uplink. All right. The reason we feel this is important is when you look at what a customer can really do with 4G on their smartphone, all right, there's really no applications that they can run that they can't run on that device. All right. And I'll give you an example. 1080p. All right. That's very good video streaming. All right. That takes about 3 megabits per second. All right, you run that on our network. We're delivering the consistent speeds that I'm showing right here. You're going to have a very good experience. All right, so this, and this is not as evident to everybody out in the field because it's not shown this way all the time. This is a big advantage for us. All right, and this gives us consistently fast speed, and it is a differentiator if you're using our product.
So nothing to be embarrassed about on speed, right? We've got a very, very fast network, right? But yeah. It's not like we're shooting for a number.
Correct. Right? And let's take that a step further. It's not that we're a slow network either, guys. In virtually every third-party study, all right, this is pure speed now. This isn't consistent speed. We are the leader. All right, so we do have that as well, but that's not necessarily what we're after. All right, we're after the consistent speed. Okay. All right, let's talk about reliability. This is the last one. When you think about reliability, Nikki mentioned it earlier. It's people think about it as running to a crisis, backup generators, power, those sort of things. Well, the other side of it is the ability to get on the network and complete your task. All right, this is our bread and butter. all right? As far as objectives, we all have it on our performance plans. There's no excuse here for not leading, for not being in a leadership position. All right, our feeling is that this truly makes a difference to the customer. When you combine the consistent speed that I talked about earlier, all right, you combine the ability to get on the network, complete your task, and you look at what the customer sees, which will be a snappy device. Things will happen quickly. I'll go to my web browser. I'll be able to connect. I'll be able to search. I'll go to an application. I'll open the application, for example, Navigator, and it will tell me right away. All right, that's what we're after. Customers really like that when you speak to them. That's what it really comes down to. All right, is my phone snappy? Does it really respond? Or does the wheel spin? All right, that's not a good experience. So when you look at this, when you look at these results that I've shown here, it's, we have a lead. We have, with AT&T, a 1% lead. I've had some people come to me and say, well, it's only 1%. The competitors are close. Right? I got to tell you, that's not right to position it that way, guys. Especially when you look at it from an engineering approach. Because let's look at an example. Let's look at real numbers. What does 1% mean? All right? And I went back and I looked at the system. And I looked at how many tasks we complete over a month. Right? And I looked at how many failures 1% would be equivalent to. And guess what I found out? It was 10 million failures a month incrementally for 1%. I'll tell you what, that's a leader in reliability.
Good. Thank you, Mike. Okay, so we got the basics of what we need to do, right? But that stuff takes money, right? So we have the billion-dollar woman with us here, Cynthia Group. So Cynthia, can you tell us a little bit about our capital budget and where we're spending all the money that the company entrusts us with?
Sure. Thanks, Nikki. So as you're aware, we've added significant usage to the network over the past several years, and next year is no different. We're forecasting to grow about 40% usage on the network in 2016. And when you look at the incremental usage, we're also forecasting that we'll have more incremental usage on the network this year than we did last year. So that's the main driver of our capital budgets right now, is that usage, right, and the densification that Nikki has talked about in the past. So we're planning to add about 20,000, or a little over 20,000 solutions again to the network in 2016. Okay, and that's driving about a little over $7.7 billion of the $11 billion budget is dedicated to LTE capacity and LTE service improvements and the densification efforts. So with that, we're not building like the traditional solutions anymore. Those 20,000 solutions, they're no longer just traditional macro cells. Right, so there's new solutions that we're putting in that are more cost effective. So we have small cells going in, we have C-RAN, we have new low cost effective in building solutions. We're refarming our existing spectrum. So that's the main driver. Those are the types of solutions that we're adding. That's making up the biggest portion of the $11 billion capital budget that we have. And we just want to remember and ensure that when you're out there installing a new solution, that we're looking at what is the most cost-effective solution that we can put in, and that we're always putting in that cost-effective solution as the first solution that we're implementing.
Right. Good. Okay. So now I understand we're also looking at some new ways of analyzing our capital program. Heidi, you're leading up some of those efforts with members of the team. Tell us about this tool I hear called Kraken.
All right.
Anybody heard that?
So historically, we've used a tool called VPI, which is Verizon Performance. Thank you. Yes. And as Cynthia had said, that really was taking all the usage that we have on the network and funding for that. But believe it or not, $11 billion is not enough to fund all the usage that we're seeing on the network, primarily because of the reliable, speedy network that Mike described. So what we did was we put together a cross-functional team that went out and grabbed information from various parts of the business, IT, for example, sales, and we looked at the markets and said, where do we have the highest lifetime value of our customers? Where do we have maybe an issue with churn, or we have the lowest churn? Where do we have the highest prospects, which would be folks that are not Verizon customers today, but have the characteristics of a Verizon customer? And where can we invest more surgically than just looking at triggering sectors to be able to help the business objectives of bringing down costs, but also increasing revenue? And so we developed a tool called Kraken that does that.
You're going to tell us why it's called
Certainly.
Kraken?
Well, you know, for anybody who doesn't know, I am actually a marine biologist, and a kraken is a squid.
You should keep that fact hidden. You should not really share that.
Actually, the tool started out with something in the center and then had lots of tentacles, and it reminded us of a kraken. So. We use the tool. It's out in the regions now, so if folks in the regions are not aware of it, please do talk to your budget manager or your planning EDs. And you can use it to do scenario planning, which is really a lot of the power of it. So you could actually run and say, hey, if we wanted to go get more prospects, which of the triggering sectors would we prioritize? But it also allows us, if Fran were to say, hey, Nikki, I have an extra $200 million in my back pocket. Where would you like to spend it?
Doesn't happen that much.
No, it doesn't. Or conversely, if he said, I need $200 million back, we could now very quickly go ahead and run what-if scenarios that would be able to give him a answer on where we would invest that extra money or pull it back. In the past, when we got those questions, Cynthia would go out to 21 different regions, ask the question. We would have a huge spreadsheet that we would manipulate for a couple weeks before we could get that answer.
Right, good. So this is a great example, right, of using, you know, big data analytics that we all hear and read so much about. Very practical example of using it for some business benefit. And I think we're really only just scratching the surface here.
Absolutely.
So it will have more utility as time goes on, and we enrich the data set.
That's right. In fact, we're starting to work on an expense version of it as well, so that the regions can see the different drivers that they have and levers they can pull to help with the expense containment, which Colleen will talk about.
Good, good. So let's go to Adam next. So Adam runs our wireless network planning, and you know, as such, has a lot of interesting things to say. So let's first talk about CES, Adam. So, you know, many of the team here, I'm sure, was reading a lot about some of the exciting things that are always shown every year at CES. You know, things like drones were big this year, connected cars, et cetera. So how does Verizon play in that connected space going forward?
Yeah, great question. So the Internet of Things, as it's commonly referenced, is an absolutely critical part of our revenue growth long term. Okay, we have to make a lot of money on the Internet of Things over the next several years to meet the business plan, and it's an environment that's ripe to do so. Now, how that translates for network is Internet of Things devices have a very different profile than the consumer smartphone that you use today. So if you think of a smartphone that has mobility, advanced feature set, voice calling, high throughput needs, the Internet of Things devices fall into a slightly different category where they don't need as much network. Okay, the form factor is dramatically different. They're simpler. So a sensor on a manhole cover, right, doesn't need as much network as a smartphone. So what our teams did last year actually was we launched the first nationwide Cat 1 enabled network. Basically made software changes to our LTE network to enable these simplified Category 1 devices that need very little network. That's a world first. So you all delivered that, which is pretty remarkable. The second piece of that equation is the core network. So today, our very robust core network does all the smartphone traffic I mentioned before. Category 1 devices and later even further simplified devices need much less core network. So we're designing and deploying today a virtualized machine-to-machine core that basically is a core light, if you will. Rapidly scalable, capable of quickly spinning up to accommodate billions of machine-to-machine devices in the Internet of Things space. That's another thing that we're leading the industry in as well.
That's good. So talk about leading the industry. Seems like we're leading the industry in 5G. Has anybody heard about our... So Adam, when am I going to have a 5G phone in my hands?
Probably never. But to level set, yes, 5G is a very popular topic these days. And to level set, as Nikki mentioned a second ago, the concept of a 5G-enabled smartphone is many years out. In fact, the formal standards process that we are a contributor to, we drive and participate in heavily, has true 5G out several years down the road. The important takeaway for all of you here is we are not going to wait for that ecosystem to evolve on its own. Okay, we don't do that. Like we do with 4G and 3G, we're going to drive that ecosystem. So the reason we're being so aggressive right now with 5G is because we've seen enough to know that there's really, really good innovation within the infrastructure community that we can then leverage and use to solve business problems that we have today. All the things we're doing today on machine-to-machine, densification of the network, antenna modifications, those are all building blocks for what 5G is going to become. So what we're focused on in 2016 is some really kind of pure technical trials of what our vendors have developed in their labs, what other operators are developing in markets like Korea, where they have to host the 2018 Olympics that have been declared 5G Olympics. So we're going to leverage a lot of that innovation globally, test it out here in real-world scenarios in the U.S. at a slew of different locations, and really make some early technical decisions on where we want to drive this next-generation technology.
So we'll do a lot of technical trials this year, many of them, most of them, with the field teams in different locations. What would you tell the field that wants to either get involved or learn more?
Yeah, no, it's great. Definitely start paying attention. I mean, I think all things considered, now is the time. There's a lot of material that we generate and a lot of material in some of the standards communities already about 5G. But what I want you to be aware of is that in the early part of the year, probably the first 6 months, we're going to do a lot of heads down, technical testing, primarily with our headquarters and vendors teams. In the latter part of the year, we're going to expand that testing to look a lot more like the network we operate today, using different bands of spectrum that are in the very high millimeter wave range. And at that point in time, we'll be reaching out to our friends in maintenance engineering and the field operations and system performance teams to garner some support in that process.
So we really shouldn't be thinking of our current spectrum as 5G spectrum.
Absolutely not. We need a lot more.
A lot more than that, right? Okay, good. Thank you, Adam. So Colleen, for those of you who don't know Colleen, she is leading our network transformation efforts and has a wide network of network people out there sort of helping. So can you just tell us what's going on in terms of cost transformation and how people are participating and what's on the docket?
Employee ideas, absolutely. So let me first start with, of course, we know our operating expense is largely fixed, right? So, but that does not deter the network team from digging in and finding cost-effective ways to do things. So, and as you said earlier, I mean, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal that we're involved in, and we really need everyone engaged in finding ideas. And as the ideas come in, we're leveraging the data analytics, and we're scaling, and we're really doing what we can to, maximize the impact to the network. So, in terms of some ideas, so let me give you a simple one, right? So, changing our operating practices to take cost out while preserving our network reliability. So 2 really easy examples. Adjusting the temperature settings in shelters to reduce our AC costs.
So that's temperature up or down, Colleen?
Temperature up.
Oh, got it. Temperature up.
Everybody following that?
Yeah.
And then, of course, another easy one is adjusting the intervals on exercising our backup generators to save on fuel costs.
Yep.
So those are very simple ideas, straightforward. But, we're implementing them now, and we're going to save several $1 million annually by doing this. So, these are really great employee ideas, and I think for those, some in the field would say that this is good stuff.
Yeah.
So we will continue to push on the technology enablers, right, CRAN and deployment of dark fiber, but we can't stop there. We really need ideas from employees. And no idea too small, right, especially if it's going to improve our cost structure. So if you have an idea, speak up, talk to your managers, make sure that you're heard. And, really everybody's participation is necessary here.
Right, because like you say, it's ideas big and little. We've got to attack this on various fronts in order to get the type of step function change that we really need in our total operating expense going forward. Again, it gives us that cushion if we need to make pricing moves in the marketplace to have that low cost structure, right? Critical. Okay. Well, thank you to the panel here. What I'd like to do next is I'm going to tee up a video that I think you will like if you haven't already seen it. It's it's been just unveiled on our website, but it really goes to the heart of the work that you all do every day.
My name is Kerry Packer. I'm married to my wife Cecilia, and I have a daughter, Isabella, 7 years old. We love being outdoors, we love doing stuff together. That morning, I was on my way to work like normal. I checked my phone to check the weather. There was a tornado warning actually right over us. So I drove about a mile down the road, and I went through a couple puddles, and then before I knew it, I was in a flash flood.
All too often people drive into low water crossings without realizing it and not realizing how deep that water is, and they get washed away.
That water rose so fast, it swept me about a half a mile through a field and then into some woods. And I thought to myself, I need to let my wife know what's going to happen because I don't know if my phone's going to get wet. So I filmed it and then I texted it to my wife. And texting a video, I was like, oh, I hope this thing sends before I get on a car. It sent right away.
So you can see I'm floating down some sort of creek in the middle of this weather. I've called 911. It told me to roll down my windows and stay in the car, and hopefully they'll be here soon.
Carrie sent me the video, and at first I was like, oh, this is something from YouTube, or, you know, I didn't believe it, basically. Then I call him, I FaceTime him.
I used my phone to panorama around and show her what was going on.
The rain was pouring on the phone.
I got into an area where there were lots of trees, and I said to myself, if there's any time I can get out of this car onto a sturdy tree, that's my best bet. And a car passed by a small tree, and so I grabbed onto that. And it was lucky that I did, because about 20 feet later, the car hit a tree and nosedived and just was buried with water. So as you can see, I'm still up in the tree, and the police have called me and told me they're on their way. Captain Rick Rutledge contacted me by phone, and he said, I'm sending a helicopter out to you.
Tom was talking to Carrie as the aircraft was going over. Carrie would say something that communications would relay to the aircraft. And there was conversation going all the way around, which is not something I had ever experienced before.
They passed over a few times and found me, and then a woman dropped down from the helicopter on a cord and picked me up.
To have communications with someone caught in a situation like this is very rare. And in this case, to have not only audio, but video and texting and everything working, it was a pleasant surprise for us.
I've told dozens of my friends that the big thing about Verizon is you're always going to have a signal. I mean, it's always going to be reliable. And what's the point of even owning a cell phone if half the time you don't have a reliable signal? And in this case, I'm in the middle of a torrential rainstorm, in the middle of the woods, in South Austin, far from the city center, and I'm still FaceTiming my wife.
Reliable network is extremely important, and it makes our job much easier.
I am totally convinced that Verizon had a huge part in keeping him safe and alive.
I'm definitely grateful for the part that Verizon played in getting me home safe to my family. Better absolutely matters.
Wow. All right. I mean, I don't know what to say, right? I mean, I just love that video. I love that customer. And I would like my first question to be Aparna to say, have you hired him yet? No. I mean, like his calm under pressure and his composure, like floating down a river and taking video, it's unbelievable. We could use that, right? No, but that, I mean, that just goes to the heart of the value that our network provides. And that was a terrible situation there, but Mother Nature never ceases to challenge us year after year. So Aparna, that was in your territory.
It was, and absolutely devastating, as you saw. And we've had our fair share of rains and floods in the south over the past 3 months. And I tell you, each and every time our network has delivered.
Yeah.
And the South Central team really showed us how it's done over the holidays. So a big thank you to the team and to everyone who's doing everything to keep that network up and running for our customers like this.
Right. Oh, so meaningful. So thank you. Thank you all. So we have natural disasters that challenge us. We also have man-made disasters that challenge us. I think I just called the upcoming Super Bowl a man-made disaster. But, you know, so for your football fans out there, you might not like that. But I would like Brian, who's been leading the team preparing for our next Super Bowl, to just tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was going there too with that. I was thinking we've got the disaster of usage coming our way. So San Francisco, it's a lot like Metro New York, a lot of usage, a lot of busy people on their phones all the time. The team's done a great job. I'm really excited, just like Aparna is with her South team. Really excited with what they've done with C-RAN this year. And in preparation for 5G, what Adam mentioned, they've got a lot of dark fiber going in, and they have a lot of nodes going in. And those nodes are going to help us, these CRAN nodes, when all that usage comes for Super Bowl as well as afterwards. They've done a nice job getting ahead of the competition as well. So the planning department at San Francisco, not the easiest to work with, but we're there first.
That's
and,
great.
Yeah, they've done a really nice job getting in front of it. So,
is there any way we could show the team what people are doing out there?
Funny you should ask, Nick. So I'm excited to tell you something. We've made a video, and the PR folks and the VZTV people have come out, and we want to show you this video. We want to show you some of the preparation that's happened. First, we've put something in the stadium that nobody else has done, so I'll tease you with that. Let's go ahead and roll the video.
With over 1 million extra visitors coming to this city, the local network team has done a great job to enhance capacity so that when people come here and they want to share their experience, they'll be able to do it on the Verizon Wireless Network.
We're partnering with the #1 outdoor advertisement company in the world to install small cells inside these 20-year-old kiosks. 1 million visitors are going to be here, and they're going to walk from Embarcadero all the way down to the Moscone Center, and they're going to be able to share everything they see.
So we are in the front rows of the Levi Stadium. This area is typically underserved in most of the stadiums. Verizon engineers have designed this first-of-its-kind antenna system that goes under the seat to solve that problem.
This plan was in place well before Super Bowl 50. It enhances capacity for the visitors that are coming for Super Bowl 50 and years beyond.
I'm so excited for all the people to be able to experience the network, for them to be able to tweet, to web browse, to social media post, and they're all going to be doing it over the Verizon network.
All right, fantastic. So, Jake and Vikram, nice job on the video, and to your teams for doing all the work out there. We hate, at least I will say, it's always a little tough to sort of overhang, and say how great the experience is going to be when it hasn't happened yet. But I do feel very confident in what the team has done out there, not only inside the bowl, but really laying that foundation you talked about, Brian, in San Francisco, such a key market for us. So I'm really looking forward to it. So great.
Absolutely.
I guess I'll have to
And Nikki,
pay
Brian's
attention
having
to Super
so
Bowl.
much fun with the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. He's almost sad to hand it over to us next year.
Oh, you get it next
But
year,
we're going to show him how it's done next year.
Here you go. Oh, here we go. No, there's never any competition among my team. Okay, so on to something less glamorous. Let's talk first about cost. So I think Colleen discussed a lot of the transformation exercises. So Aparna, Lynn, do either of you have anything to share? Like what's happening in the field that we can talk about in terms of examples of transformation?
Well, first of all, I want to know how he got to talk about the Super Bowl, and I have to talk about cost. We have to talk about cost. Who drew the short straw?
Yeah.
No, I mean, we have a huge challenge ahead of us. You teed it up well earlier. I mean, think about what we're doing in the network. We are growing the network significantly because usage continues to grow. But we still have a responsibility to take costs out of the network. And if you think about the field budgets, about 75 to 80% are two buckets. Direct-tel, so all of our transport connecting our sites, and rent and lease. So I'll tackle Direct-tel and maybe tackle rent and lease and some others.
Gives me the tougher one.
So, with Direct-tel specifically, there's a couple of things that we're going after. One is kind of just some blocking and tackling, so TDM disconnects, and not even just TDM. Circuit disconnects, where we're looking and utilization is not where it needs to be. These are not easy. A lot of them require grooming, migrations, planned activities with Lex. There is still a lot of opportunity out there. The other is letting our technology and our future state network kind of get us to where we need to be with transport. So think dark fiber. Dark fiber is significantly more capacity at a lower cost. It's about 18 times more efficient than the EBH we have out there. And if you think over the next couple of years, I think the 3-year plan is about 17,000 dark fiber circuits. That changes the cost trajectory. So if I'm talking to my folks in the field or our folks in the field, we have to be as aggressive as possible with disconnects, getting them done in January, getting as many done in January so you get full year savings. But equally important is being really aggressive with our dark fiber conversions, so we're setting ourselves up for that.
So we have some tools on that front.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the second bucket, like Clint said, is rent and lease, and it's huge. Lots that can be done there. So one of the big things is over 70% of our spend in rent and lease goes to the top 3 tower providers, right? So that is an opportunity there where we can bring scale and leverage nationally to go work with these 3 tower providers, right? But that's just not it. Even in the field, right, starting now and starting yesterday, what we've started doing is we are taking a lot of the cost considerations up front, upstream in the design cycle as we're doing the mods, as we're going and touching those towers, and that's very, very, very important. However, I'd be remiss if I say that we've got it all figured out, and that is why we need each and every one of you here in this room and everywhere around the country really thinking about cost as our problem and trying to find those nuggets, the small pieces here and everywhere to fix stuff. Think about all the special events and the temp solutions that we're deploying and how we can be curbing those. So it's a challenge, but when have we in the network team seen a challenge that we've not delivered on, right? So,
right. That's right.
And Lynn, I'm sure that's exactly how you're addressing it at this moment.
There's the big things, the DT and rent and lease, but there's the small things too. I know Brian and I and you guys are, we're all very passionate about telepresence and saying we are a technology company. We need to embrace technology. So there is always a place for face-to-face meetings. I am not saying that they go away completely, but we absolutely have to do more with telepresence, help reduce some of the travel costs and some of the controllable things that are pretty tangible.
Good. Thank you, guys. So do you worry about cost too, Brian, or just Super Bowl?
No, we just built
after Super Bowl.
venues.
Yeah.
After Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Just build venues.
Yeah.
Just build the venues. Okay. We're going to work on that. Okay. Let's move to Beth.
NNO.
Yes, in our NNO organization. So we talked a little bit about the cloud. What else can you tell us about our new platform and what the plans are for it?
So we're very excited with the initial turn-up of Corona, which is the cloud that we're building for the network infrastructure.
Yeah. And did you name Corona? Have to know.
Yeah,
I did not name Corona.
The field people have observed that the headquarters people name their projects after alcohol.
Kraken. Does everybody know that Kraken is actually rum? Maybe it's a squid, but it's also rum. Corona. We were having a little dialogue in the background.
So I used to think that. Now I actually think they named a beer after our cloud.
There you go.
But anyway, we're very happy about the initial turn-up. We're excited to put the first core applications on it this year. What I would say, like for our teams, when I think about it, as we move to this, we will still be operating and engineering our network applications, but the way that we're going to do that is different. So, for instance, the hardware that we use will all be supported by our cloud team. I see a much tighter linkage between operations and engineering and then the developers that work for our suppliers. And as part of that, really a deeper understanding of the software that we're deploying.
Good. So, there was a question that came in ahead of time, and we had some on 5G. Hopefully, Adam was able to answer those. But there was one that came in on SDN, and it said, how do we monetize SDN? So how would you answer that question for our audience?
Yeah, so when I think about the benefits of SDN, I think about cost savings and a tremendous amount of automation. So if I think about monetize, the big thing really is our speed to market. So today, if we want to deploy new services or new features, it takes many, many months. But I see us leveraging this automation that's coming to really cut that time down to a fraction and be able to get new services out to our customers much, much faster.
So with some agility there, that should be a time to market advantage, right, as well as internal cost structure.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Very good. And again, to employees, like how would you How are we preparing employees? I mean, it's a big transition, almost, I believe, akin to analog to digital, right? So,
right.
So, how do we do that?
You know, we've always run to new technologies, 3G to 4G. I mean, we have the mega VoLTE network that we launched. And it's really the same things that you do for this, too. The thing that I would emphasize the most is training, because there's a ton of training out there. And I think you have to keep in mind that as this new technology comes, each role will see more or less of it. So it's not a one-size-fits-all. I think some folks will want to do some introductory training, and then others are going to be out there getting certifications. But there's a whole lot available, and I would just encourage and really urge everybody to go on and learn about software-defined networks, about virtualization, and about DevOps, and just understand how it's going to affect our network.
Okay, great. Got it? Ready, got it? Okay. All right, good. Lots of heads shaking here. All right, I want to thank the panel, and now say, with all of the change and new technology and everything else that's going to hit us in 2016, as I mentioned, the quality of our network is something fundamental that can change. There's another thing that cannot change, and that is how we operate with integrity. And this, you heard Cynthia earlier say, we have $11 billion in capital, over $7 billion in expense. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of responsibility. We can never, never skimp when it comes to integrity. And to that end, this year, we're going to roll out a class that every employee will be asked, more than asked, required. You will be taking this class. And it has to do with our responsibilities in terms of doing what we do. And I've got a little teaser for that. So if you want to run the video, please.
Hello, my name is Greg Miles, and I lead Verizon's Office of Ethics and Business Conduct, and my team is there to help employees and leaders navigate through any ethics issues they may encounter. I'm excited to introduce you to a training program we have been working on called Network with Integrity. I've partnered with the network leaders, your HR team, the legal compliance team, and Nikki to develop this in-depth program focused on how we do business with integrity at its core. We will dive into real business scenarios that may have tested our integrity. The training will take you through open dialogue with your colleagues to navigate through the best approach. And this program will roll out in mid-February, so keep your eyes open for the invite, as your participation is key to our success. Thank you very much.
Okay, everybody got it? That's some training that you can look forward to this year. So next on our agenda is one of the really fun parts for me, and is we get to do a little bit of recognition. So we have 2 employees today that we're going to recognize. And the first one is going to come to us electronically, over the waves, over the air. Not exactly, but his name is Mike Fetzner. Can you guys see Mike up here? There he is. Hi, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
Good. It's good to see you. Who's there with you, Mike?
On my left is my manager, John Gardner. On my right is my director, Bart Boyles.
Broyles.
Yeah,
sorry. New transition.
Sorry.
There you go. Honestly, it gets less and less important as you go up the line who these people are. Let's be honest, all right? All right, let's talk a little bit about you, Mike, if you'll let us. You're a cell tech, right, out in Illinois, right?
Correct.
And this summer you had quite an event happen to you. So I have to take my glasses off for this one. There was some tornadoes coming through your area that had 160 mile per hour winds, and they were hitting you and your family right where you were. So your first thought, I'm gonna say what I think happened, and then please elaborate. But here's what I heard you did. Your first thought was, let's get the family safe, yourself safe. You were able to do that, and then your very next thought is, how do I get right back to work on that network? and make sure that the network is okay. So you continued to track your 42-cell site network and make sure that you're increasing capacity as needed so that customers who needed our network had that coverage and capacity during the severe weather that was occurring. And you did all this, Mike, from the crawl space in your house. Is that accurate? Do I have that right?
Pretty much.
Oh my gosh. I'm like amazed. So this tornado completely wiped out the town of Coal City, Illinois, and it really devastated many, many lives. We had call volumes, as you would expect. They spiked, and we started experiencing blocking on the network. So Mike, you drove through these hazardous conditions to get to your MITSO. You opened up full utilization of all the channel elements in your base stations, and even road closures couldn't keep Mike away from serving our customers when they needed us the most. And your team, Mike, you and your team were just relentless in getting these sites that were off air back up again. And Mike, your manager, John, there is, he said, the notes I have, John, is that you were not surprised by Mike's heroic efforts. Is that accurate?
That's correct, Nikki. Thank you.
All right. So this is just a phenomenal job of, of loyalty and running to a crisis, and it just inspires me every time I read about it. Mike, thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to say before I virtually give you this beautiful award?
No, I'm okay. It's what we do.
That's fantastic. Did you guys hear that? Let's give Mike a round of applause. Mike, I have here something that, I don't know, it might fall through your floor and into your crawl space when you put it at home on your mantle, but it's a nice, pretty award with our new Verizon logo, and it's a 2015 Network Recognition Award. And once again, I just want to thank you so very, very much for what you did that day and what you and your team do for our customers every day. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, we have one more recognition, and unfortunately, this person had a death in the family and could not join us here today. He was planning to, but cannot. But we did not, so our sympathies, I know, jointly as a large network team go out to him and his family. But I didn't want to not do the recognition. So let me tell you a little bit about Doug Brichetti. And I think he pronounced it Brichetti, if I said that wrong. So Doug Brichetti is down in the Carolina, Tennessee neck of the woods. And he's a senior manager with our financial planning and analysis team. And many of you are aware of the concept of working capital, right? So this is how we take all that money we talked about and we process it through the system and do what we need to do in terms of construction, in terms of building and adding capacity. Well, every minute that money is out the door, but we don't have working service yet, that's working capital. And that costs money. So we always are looking for ways to squeeze those intervals down and operate more efficiently. There was one way that's been trialed in the former Carolina, Tennessee region, and Doug really led the way on this. And it was something that you may have heard of called the CIP Zero, Construction and Process Zero. So how do we work with our providers in order to only accept the equipment on site and into our systems when it's ready to be turned up? Right? And if we could do that, that saves us some working capital. And he was able to do that by developing end-to-end process flows for this 100% turnkey solution for AWS carrier ads. And he did a lot of work around this, new quote templates, new documentation that was required to facilitate all of the purchase order creation that had to happen in a slightly different way. And here's the results, folks. I think you'll like this. Time in CIP for these projects shrunk from 3 to 4 months to just a few days. Okay, that's real dollars. We were able to have 2016 sites under construction in 2015 without using 2015 capital. So that's, again, a new way to sort of accelerate what we do. 10 of those sites are already complete. We had a 14,000 square foot reduction in our staging facility storage space, so there's a cost that goes along with that too, right? And we expect a $2 million annual savings in inventory carrying costs because of these efforts. So what I love about this is that it was really, something different, right? I mean, we've been talking about this for a while, and there's many ways to attack this problem. But what Doug did is he took the leadership and he made it happen and achieved some great results. And that's the type of leadership and risk-taking that, we need to continue to encourage to meet the results that we need to meet. So again, I'm hoping that when this is replayed that Doug will be able to watch it. So let's all, as I hold up his like I'm getting a workout, I'm telling you. As I hold out his award, let's all give Doug a big round of applause. Okay, it's Q&A time. So I think what I'm going to do first, we've got a lot coming in, so please continue to, if you're out there watching the webcast, to submit some questions. We'll be able to take a few. I would like to start from the room. We've got some mics here. So who has a question in the room? Really? You have no questions? Okay, I'm going to start with one online, and you better think of some questions. How's that? So there's a question. I'm going to ask Mike Haberman to come up and help me out with this one. But what is our answer, Mike, to T-Mobile's Binge On feature, both from a network perspective and also from a marketing perspective? Come on up and answer that.
We have a solution that we've been working on. It has very similar characteristics of it. It's called video optimization. All right, it's a product that uses our VISP network, which really steers the traffic to a vendor that's called Skyfire. When it goes to Skyfire, essentially it takes that traffic and converts it down to about 480. All right, is the level it goes across. Then it goes into our LTE network and it's delivered. The benefit that we have in our implementation that's going to come out, and by the way, it's being trialed right now in a couple distribution centers, is with video, when you think about it, you like to get ahead. You like the buffer. All right? With the way we're doing it, we're compressing it so the network can actually get ahead because it's not coupled to the E node B or any of our other elements. When you do it the way T-Mobile's doing it, they're actually throttling the network so you cannot get ahead. So it could lead to stalling other things. The other thing to realize, the way T-Mobile is doing it, is they're relying on constricting the pipe and the website using adaptive bit rate. So if a website does not have adaptive bit rate, guess what happens when you throttle it? It goes, it stops. It goes, it stops. It goes, it stops. So you will see performance differences between our two networks. So our implementation is going to be very good. It's going to come out shortly. We've actually trialed in the field. We actually did it in San Francisco about a year ago, so we know it does work well. The customer response was very good when we had that active. So that's what we're going to do. Okay?
Okay, thank you, Mike. So I've got a bunch of questions coming in here, but I am going to give Basking Ridge another chance at asking a question. Anything on your minds here in Basking Ridge? Okay. Seriously, folks? Nothing? Everything's crystal clear. Crystal clear? All right. Okay. All right. Let's. I would shame you into asking a question. Hi.
Question on cost transformation, which
Yes.
I understand, but just wanted to open up for employee opportunities. So we heard all the leaders today mention that it starts with everybody. It's not just at one level or another. What type of platforms are in place to make it easier for people to bring forward their ideas? Because the working level is touching things every day. They have great ideas out there. What can we do to make it easier for them beyond just talking to their managers, those ideas that can be cascaded forward to the teams that are working on it?
Great. I'm going to ask Colleen to join me on this one, but I will start off by saying, first and foremost, it's about, being fully engaged and not overlooking the obvious, right? Things that we do every single day, sometimes we become so used to doing them that we can't even, we remember when we first started doing it, how cumbersome it was and how silly we thought it was, but over time we get used to doing them that way. I read somewhere that, your first 100 days on a new job are when you see things the clearest. And that is the time when you really need to think about how the work is being done. So I'd ask again everybody to be just fully engaged. No idea is a stupid one. But your question is really about beyond maybe just talking to their manager, which would be sort of one of the things. What would we say to people out there on how to engage?
So I know that there is a lot of engagement already going on. So beyond talking to your managers, feel free. I will just put it out there. You can reach out to me directly. A lot of people have done exactly that. But there are a lot of groups that are focused on cost transformation within the network organization. So I would just make sure that you're familiar with what that is for each of your teams. And then, really what we're trying to do here is leverage business transformation and some of our VLSS team to really continue with the funneling of those ideas. I will just a quick plug on VisiWeb. I would ask that you guys keep an eye out for some employee ideas that are going to come in on what we're doing, some stories on what we're doing to transform the network. So that may be another avenue to share ideas too.
Great. Thank you, Colleen. Okay. Let's take one from online. We have a question here about our tools. It says, and Mike, maybe you want to join me on this one too. We see so many tools come and go for the building of cell sites, from conception, project management, to real estate, ordering. The list goes on and on here. Yet sometimes we end up making our own tools, or worse yet, we're still working from spreadsheets in some cases. So what are we doing in terms of unifying the tool set and really getting the right ability in people's hands?
All right, that's a good question. Who asked that question? I have that. I am. That was.
But I can tell you, it wouldn't be just this person. It would be other people.
I have a lot of passion around this one because I think there's lots of changes that need to happen here. All right, think of the way we set up NSS. Right, it's a very customer-driven. Listen to the requirements. Over the years, I've been part of it for a number of years now, and everybody has a different process. Everybody has a way of doing things. Right? You have NSS trying to please all those requirements, trying to do it nationally. Not a very good formula for success. All right? So one of the things that I'm going to need everybody to do that's on the webcast and listening is we need to look at our processes. We do need we need more standardization in those processes because we can't keep doing these one-offs. We can't keep doing the tailoring. We need to adjust our process to what's out there. All right, so that's what needs to happen there. Now, from a tool standpoint, all right, you can write this down. All right, this is the plan. We've just been going through it with a bunch of people on it. Is we have about 130 tools. All right, I'll call them 130 interfaces. Tools, things for you to go, screens for you to go to, various functions. That's a lot. All right, the plan is, and we're going to try and accelerate this, but over the next few years, we want to get it down to 8 interfaces. All right? Now, you still might have the tools that feed some of those interfaces. That's fine. But you don't need to use it from a user standpoint. And it will be defined by job function. All right? So you look at engineering, system performance. All right? So that's what we're going to deliver. But keep in mind, it's a combination of what NSS is going to do, right, and the horsepower we're going to put behind it. All right, and also being flexible with our processes. So we're going to have to be a little stronger there, a little firmer with people on making sure people agree and not having one-offs. All right? Thank you.
Good. Okay, you got his commitment. You guys hear that? Okay. This is important. I think we have time maybe for one more. Do we have any others here in the room? I could take one online. And Adam, I'm going to ask you to join me for this one. So this question comes from Ohio, and a person is asking, what is our biggest obstacle to tackle in order to launch 5G?
Great question. There's really 2 answers to that, right? The first one is spectrum, and we talked a little bit about this before. You take all the spectrum that we have in the portfolio today, right, that is rapidly refarmed and reused for latest and greatest technology. It does not come close to equating to what we need in the portfolio to deliver, say, 5 gigabits per second to an end user in a dense urban environment, which is one of the early kind of milestones of 5G, right? So when you look at that and say, all right, well, what are we going to do differently? Well, one of the promises that's out there, we'll quickly be digging through this, and part of our technical trials are looking at this very closely, is millimeter wave bands, which is 6 gigahertz, 30 gigahertz. North of that, there's a lot of spectrum available. Now, it's different for us because it's very high bands of spectrum. The propagation is much different than what we use today in 850 or 700 megahertz bands. So there's a lot of work that has to be done on our end to kind of prove that out. But spectrum is probably the one long pole in the tent, if you will. The other piece of it is really finding the best commercial model for whatever the technology turns into. We'll have some early things that we can solve for our business, which is part of the reason we're being so aggressive. But clearly, as you can see today, it's not a matter of just charging more for faster throughput, right? So there's got to be new commercial models that evolve with these improvements in technology and this radical shift in the way the customer uses the network.
Thank you. All right, good. Okay, we have one more. That'll be our last question.
Hi, Nikki. Christopher Desmond.
Hey, Chris.
Headquarters Engineering Operations Support and former VLSS. So it's great to be back in network, putting some of this stuff to use. Great idea with the SIP0 down in Carolina, Tennessee.
Yeah.
What are we doing to productize that, processize that, and share it nationwide?
So talk about how do we get some of these nuggets and good trials and make sure that we get the benefit everywhere, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely. So specifically on the SIP0, I mean, there's a lot of work going on that, and that was particularly with Ericsson and AWS in that region. We've got a lot of work with Ericsson going on. You may have heard of VMI, or Vendor Managed Inventory, which basically takes, you know, some of the equipment that we used to receive from Ericsson and wait until we got everything ready. Got all the equipment, I got transport to my cell ready, I've got everything there, and okay, now let's just get it there and build it. Meanwhile, that sits on our books. The change with vendor managed inventory is that Ericsson and Alcatel, for example, will keep that inventory on their books and guarantee us a much shorter delivery time in order to get it on site when we need it, a delivery time that we can have confidence in. And we believe in this because what they get out of it is a more accurate forecast. So that is something that will be rolled out nationwide. And a part of that is, you know, what would the former SIP0 trial or just-in-time inventory trial. So all that really does come together under that to make sure that we get the benefit everywhere. And that's what's happened on CIP, but I think you could take almost anything in our, you know, all of these processes that Colleen talked about and that we're working with VLSS. And, you know, if it's, here's the mindset we need to have. If it's good in Tulsa, you know, why isn't it good in Albany? And we need to assume that it is. And there may be a reason that it's not, but probably not a good one, you know? I mean, there will be reasons, you know, that Kalamazoo will be different than Manhattan. But, you know, for the vast majority of our end-to-end processes, you know, we should have a little bit more standardization than we have today. So I think you'll see that being driven with our new organization structure, which we didn't really talk a lot about today. But the idea was that by having 3 heads of engineering in the field, and not 21, that they should be able to figure out some of the best ways to do something. And it's conveniently an odd number. So they have to vote occasionally. And you know what? It's not always going to go your way. And we should standardize where it makes sense. But it doesn't really mean that we have to have a pure standard operating procedure for every single thing. I don't think that's the right way to go. But we're pretty far over here on the pendulum. We got to swing it back a little bit and see, you know, where standards will help us in process. Because everything that Mike just talked about and the frustration we often have with tools, you know, sometimes is not just in our inability to, you know, deliver a quality tool. It's because our process is so crazy and non-standard, and therefore a valuable tool in one part of the company isn't so valuable over here, right? Or the requirements that come into that tool end up being, you know, something that's overwhelming and you can't really deal with. So I think we got a ways to go on this. I think our structure should help drive this. It's not, you know, full-on standard operating practice everywhere, but we're so far from that, folks, that I think if we move it a little more towards that, we're gonna strike the right balance. We're going to strike the right balance. So thank you for the question and the opportunity to talk about that. Thank you all for your questions, and we'll try to get answers to the ones online that we didn't get to. But now I've kept my promise of going over on time. So let me try to wrap up with just some closing remarks. We talked today about 2016, what's important in 2016, and there's a lot, right? A lot in technology, a lot with VoLTE, continuing to lead the industry and transforming our whole network and cost basis in the process. That is a lot, folks. So I thought I would end with some comments about what things can't change in all this. I wouldn't want you to walk out of here and log off your computer thinking, oh God, everything's up in the air. What do we do now? Well, there's some fundamental things that cannot change. And first and foremost is our commitment to integrity. And right there with it is the quality of the network. So I want us to have the debates between cost and quality, right? I want us to talk about, well, maybe we put active electronics at the base of the shelter instead of on top because it's going to save me on a lease amendment versus get the quality gain. I think I know where I go on that, but I like the fact that we will talk about it. That it's not quality at any cost, but it is quality and cost that are always in the mind of the engineer. And that's the challenge. But what I feel really, besides those two things, I say everything else is up for grabs. We can talk about changing anything. And hopefully that is empowering to you. Hopefully that is liberating to you, because that's what it's meant to be. And what I feel good about is that we have some technology tools that are here. They're not really on the horizon anymore. They were maybe on the horizon a bit in 2015. In 2016, they're here. We will be putting applications on our cloud this year. We will be implementing LTE advanced features this year. We will be turning on self-optimizing networks this year. I mean, we have some technology at our fingertips that will happen this year. So we have some tools. We have process tools. We have VLSS. We have Colleen's leadership and all of you together, with your ideas, working on transformative ideas. So, we've got all of that. But fundamentally, we've got the right team in place. And I feel that. I feel it very, very deeply that we have the right people in this network team that can achieve not either or, but and. So we can do it. Once again, I look forward to seeing you all in the field. Thank you for attending and spending your time with us this morning. I wish you a very best 2016. And now I'd like to end on our Credo video. Thank you.
This is our Credo. We've all got one. Or two. Maybe even three. It's been our guide. Pretty much forever. But the world is a different place than it was yesterday. The business is changing. Our customers are changing. What people expect out of our company, that's changing too. In this digital, viral, mobile, hashtag social media, socially aware world we live in, people want to buy from someone they trust. Employees want to work for a company with values. Who we are, who we've always been, how we serve our customers better, matters. It's what makes us, us. So even as the world around us always changes, this is something we can all hold on to.